Gregory Peck really detested these actors. The names may shock you, for Peck was universally known as one of Hollywood's most gracious gentlemen, a man of integrity whose public persona exuded tranquility, elegance, and professionalism. But beneath that highly buffed exterior, he harbored private judgments, sometimes acid, sometimes acerbic regarding a few of his fellow actors. To understand those opinions, though, one must first understand the man himself, his beginnings, his rise, his philosophy, and the values that shaped his career. Gregory Peck was born Eldred Gregory Peck on April 5, 1916, in the quiet seaside town of La Jolla, California. The environment of his early childhood may have been indicative of privilege, a land of sun-soaked beaches and the leisurely pace of Southern California living. But Gregory's life as a boy was not free of difficulty. His parents divorced when he was a boy, and a good deal of his early life was left in the care of his grandmother. It was at her hands that he learned the virtues of independence, resourcefulness, and self-support. Those qualities became deeply ingrained in him, surfacing later not only in the way he approached his career, but also in the moral weight he brought to his most iconic roles. Growing up, Peck wasn't immediately destined for stardom. He attended St. John's Military Academy and later San Diego High School, where his tall, lean frame already made him stand out, but he was still searching for his calling. Following high school, he attended the University of California, Berkeley, initially as a pre-med. Medicine had appeared to be a decent career, one commensurate with his reserved seriousness, but there lacked the spark of enthusiasm. It was in college, almost incidentally, that he found the stage. Drama classes, student theater productions, and the raw excitement of performance awakened something within him. Acting, which was initially an outside-of-school interest, quickly developed into an honest vocation. By the early 1940s, Peck had settled on the decision to become an actor in earnest. He relocated from coast to coast to New York, where he trained at the neighborhood playhouse under Sanford Meisner, a giant of American acting pedagogy. The training was demanding, but it was what suited Peck. He possessed the self-control to excel under stress and the innate ability to become roles with earnestness. His towering presence, dark good looks, and expressive eyes made him a visual presence, and his inherent dignity and capacity to convey quiet strength set him apart from most of his peers. Hollywood, always on the lookout for new faces, soon looked his way. Peck's first film appearance was in 1944 in the World War II drama Days of Glory. From there, his career path was nearly meteoric. Later in the same year, he also appeared in The Keys of the Kingdom, where he received his first Academy Award nomination for playing a simple priest. Critics and audiences quickly saw something special about him shortly after that. He wasn't just handsome. He was convincing, earthy, and capable of expressing strength, empathy, and vulnerability simultaneously. The late 1940s solidified Peck's position as one of Hollywood's top leading men. He played in Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound, 1945, where his intensity was exactly matched by Ingrid Bergman's refinement. In King Vidor's Duel in the Sun, 1946, he demonstrated that he could add substance to grand melodramas. And then Gentleman's Agreement, 1947, a movie which was still one of the most socially risky of its kind. Peck acted a reporter who assumed to be Jewish in order to feel and reveal anti-Semitism up close. It was controversial, courageous, and profoundly significant, demonstrating that Peck was not afraid to take on assignments that had social relevance. This was something that would be a theme of his career, being willing to play roles that required audiences to face unpleasant truths. In 1962, Peck gave the performance that defined both his career and one generation's concept of justice and morality. In To Kill a Mockingbird, the screen adaptation of Harper Lee's novel, Peck portrayed Atticus Finch, the upright attorney who defends an innocent black man charged with rape in a racially polarized southern town. The character suited him to a T, radiating the serene dignity, moral certainty, and unobtrusive strength audiences had come to equate with him. The performance won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, but more importantly, it etched itself into American culture. Students learned from it, attorneys referenced it, and millions of viewers sought out Atticus Finch as a symbol of virtue. Peck himself thought of it as one of the most significant roles he ever played, and it would remain his film legacy. Off-screen, Peck lived by many of the beliefs that his characters did. He was an active liberal, advocating liberal causes, civil rights, and disarmament. He advocated for the rights of workers and free speech. For his dedication to justice and humanity, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1969 by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Unlike most stars who maintained their public image independent of their private beliefs, Peck permitted his fame to enhance his voice concerning significant social issues. Peck's personal life was both changeable and static. He married twice, initially in 1942 to Greta Kukkonen. His marriage to Greta continued until 1955 and bore 3 children. Although it did end in divorce, it was not acrimonious. Both were committed to their children and to each other. Later the same year, Peck wed French journalist Véronique Passoni, whom he had met while being interviewed by the press. This second marriage lasted close to 50 years, bearing 2 children and being one of Hollywood's most respected relationships. Véronique saw him through his career, foreign travels, and latter years, offering stability and companionship that anchored him against the storm of fame. But even this gentleman was not above personal aggravations and dislikes. Although seldom expressed out loud, those around him were aware that he had strong feelings about some actors. In informal discussions, he expressed disdain for a number of his period's top stars, names possibly unknown to those who best recall him as the gracious star of To Kill a Mockingbird. Charlton Heston was one such name. Both Peck and Heston were giant figures of Hollywood's golden era, but Peck considered Heston's approach to acting shallow and too stiff. Charlton always believed posing heroically was sufficient. Peck once cracked in private. But acting isn't about standing erect and relaxing your jaw. It's about truth. And truth, alas, was never one I ever discovered in his work. Heston, who loved biblical epics and historical extravaganzas, reveled in a larger-than-life persona, but Peck, who prized subtlety and authenticity, all too frequently reduced it to mere posturing. Another actor who tried Peck's patience was Robert Mitchum. The two were also famously paired together in Cape Fear, 1962, with Mitchum portraying one of film's greatest on-screen villains alongside Peck's steadfast attorney. The movie was both a critical and financial success, though Peck went on to admit that the experience of working with Mitchum had been nagging. Mitchum had talent, no question, Peck conceded, but he was lazy, sloppy, and sometimes outright rude to the art. He liked to drink, to gamble, to walk onto set half-prepared. That was never okay with me. Acting takes discipline, and Mitchum lived on rebellion. Their off-camera relationship was chilly, even as their on-camera chemistry made Cape Fear a classic. Maybe the most surprising of Peck's dislikes was Marlon Brando. Brando redefined Hollywood acting with his coarse, unpredictable method acting style, receiving praise as a genius. But Peck was unimpressed. Brando was a genius when he did care. Peck conceded late in life. But the problem was he didn't care often enough. He mumbled his lines, wasn't respectful of directors, and treated the work as if it were beneath him. That was not artistry, in my opinion. It was arrogance. To classically trained Peck, who valued the art form intensely and was respectful of the process, Brando's anarchic approach seemed self-indulgent, even destructive. A more personal dislike was reserved for Frank Sinatra. Peck admired Sinatra's great success as a singer, but had no use for his attitude. Frank never knew when to stop being Frank Sinatra. Peck stated, "He brought the swagger, the entourage, the ego into every room, and that was draining. You can't be larger than the story, and Frank always was." Although they never fought openly, Peck subtly skirted Sinatra whenever possible, surrounding himself with professionals who revered the work and not their own egos. In spite of these admonishments, Peck seldom spoke ill of others out loud. He was mindful of keeping up his gentlemanly reputation, and his barbed remarks did not appear until later in memoirs, private correspondence, and chats with close friends. He understood that bitterness could poison a legacy, and he wished to be remembered for dignity, not resentments. Still, these dislikes revealed a man who valued professionalism, discipline, and truth above all, and who could not abide arrogance, laziness, or ego in the sacred art of acting. Peck continued acting into the 1980s and 1990s, albeit at a slower pace. He appeared in MacArthur 1977, playing the famed general, and in The Boys from Brazil 1978, a chilling story about Nazi war criminals. His subsequent roles retained the same seriousness viewers had come to associate with him, although the movies themselves were not always as renowned as those he made in the past. His final notable appearance was in a miniseries about Abraham Lincoln, another part ideally suited to his persona as a man of integrity and moral strength. Gregory Peck died peacefully in his sleep on June 12, 2003, aged 87. Bronchopneumonia, a severe lung infection, was the cause of death. He passed away in his home in Los Angeles, surrounded by his loving wife, Veronique. Their marriage for almost 50 years had them tied in love and devotion, and in his last moment, that tie was not broken. Peck was buried at the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels in downtown Los Angeles, an appropriately majestic and holy location for a man who had lived his life with grace and devotion. His funeral was attended by family, friends, co-workers, and fans from all over the globe. One of the most powerful testimonies was the eulogy given by actor Brock Peters, who had himself portrayed Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird. 2 decades before that, Peck and Peters had personified one of cinema's greatest depictions of justice and compassion, lawyer and client, defender and accused, joined by the fight against prejudice. Peters' attendance at the funeral had deep symbolic meaning, a reminder of the significant cultural reach of their collaborative efforts. Gregory Peck is, to this day, one of Hollywood's greatest legends. His life was defined by integrity, discipline, and devotion to art as well as justice. And yet, like all men, he was not without opinion, without dislikes, and without moments of frankness. The actors he actually couldn't respect, Charlton Heston, Robert Mitchum, Marlon Brando, and Frank Sinatra, were mirrors of what he held most dear. For Peck, acting was a holy vocation. It required one to be respected, disciplined, and honest. Anything less was intolerable, and thus his legacy lives on, not simply in the performances he gave, but in the values he represented. Gregory Peck was not merely a star, but a banner carrier of dignity in Hollywood. Even when he disliked, even when he criticized, it was ever in the name of something greater, the conviction that art as life could demand nothing less than honesty and integrity.